on set. Places, everybody. And action.
It's time once again for the Hooked on Movies podcast. Today's movie is the 1991 supernatural comedy, The Addams Family. With me are Ken.
They say a man who represents himself has a fool for a client. Well, with God as my witness, I am that fool.
You are that fool. And Ted.
Eric, are they made out of real Girl Scouts?
I don't know, Ted. That sounds like dirty pool load, man. I'm Eric, of course, and this is The Addams Family. That's what we're looking at today. So, gentlemen, how'd the week treat you? Ken?
Oh, I went out and bought a ton of movies. So here we go with the list of what I got here, okay? First, yeah, I know, right? First, I got a Harry Lloyd box set, and he's a silent film star, so for those who don't know what that is. There was a time when movies didn't have, sound in them. I know Eric's not a big fan of silent films. I also got Forbidden Planet, Wyatt Earp, because we did Tombstone, so I figured I might as well have Wyatt Earp as well. Trouble with the Curve. I had these movies on digital, but I bought a box set of Ghostbusters with the first 3 Ghostbusters movies. The Brothers Bloom, Night of the Creeps, Night of the Comet, Bill and Ted Face the Music, Pixels,
Oh.
The Fighter, and a little box set that had V for Vendetta, The Watchmen, and Constantine. Those were the movies that I bought this week, and then I continued to watch Agatha on Disney. It's actually turned out to be a really good show. I really enjoy that, and I'm about 1.5 episodes away from finishing Discovery of Witches. Been watching the English Teacher TV show. It's funny. It's got some funny moments. I like it, and we've been finishing up Only Murders in the Building. Outside of that, just your typical sports and playing poker 3 times a week in my poker leagues, free poker leagues. So I'm just going to put that out there so people don't think I'm a gambler that, wastes all his money on poker. I wasted all on movies.
No, you waste all your money on movies.
Yep. Want everybody to know where my money's wasted on.
It's an interesting.
He's not a degenerate gambler.
That's an interesting box set of V for Vendetta, Constantine, and what was the other one? The Watchmen.
The Watchmen.
So, okay. So it's a box set of comic book movies. Okay, I got you. Or yeah.
Is that what it's called? The or yeah box set.
I
got a lot of those.
I'm trying to think of what they're called. They're graphic novels. That's what I was thinking.
The WTF box set.
Yeah.
All right.
It's because The Watchmen's the biggest graphic novel of all time. Interesting.
How about you, Ted? What did you do this week?
Not much. I watched Goodfellas. Bought Scream, the original Scream.
Guys have like a Halloween theme going here with some of these movies.
Yeah, it's just been kind of a quiet week. I watched some a few documentaries. I started the new Netflix documentary on the 2004 Boston Red Sox comeback against the Yankees.
Looks good.
It's really good. They include a lot of different people in it. So, yeah, it's very interesting. I'm excited to watch the Amazon Prime documentary called Game 7. It's about different Game 7s in different sports. So I'm excited to watch that, too. There was a really good documentary on ESPN, one of their 30 for 30s.
Yes.
Was about the Yankees and Dodgers.
77, 78 World Series back-to-back.
Yeah, and the ESPN documentary goes all the way back to when the Yankees treated the Dodgers like a whipping boy until they finally, the Dodgers finally overcame them. But one of the most classic rivalries in World Series history.
Amen to that.
So, Eric, how was your week?
My week is pretty slow. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just, work and listening to some of my podcast favorites that I like. The only thing I'm still working on is season 3 of The Sopranos. Reacquainting myself with that one. So we're chugging along. I did watch briefly on Max. It's a new series that came out called It's Florida Man.
I want to watch that so bad. It's in my
Yeah,
queue.
it comes out about an episode at a time.
Mhm.
It's interesting because
Yeah.
of my hatred of Florida. It's very interesting. So I'm hoping it gets a little bit better. They're like 20-minute episodes. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. Other than that, chugging along.
I do have to mention that Justin and I recorded an episode of the Generation Y podcast last Saturday. We highlighted Rage Against the Machine this time. Those of you who enjoy some good mid-90s metal, that's Rage is for you. So, yeah, check it out.
One of our fellow brothers in podcasting, which is, I'll get it out right now. He's available on the Dorkening Network.
Yes.
So a shout out to them. And while we're doing that, you can find us, of course, on Hooked On_movies on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And
or whatever Elon's calling it at this
Elon's
point.
calling. How about Facebook? Some great stuff out there. Ken, what's going on with Facebook?
Oh, just join our Facebook page. I post a lot of questions out there. What favorite movies you guys like? Just kind of like behind the scenes of movies that we enjoy, and just find little tidbits here and there that maybe we don't cover on this podcast, or we do, but it's just done better by somebody else.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Great. And he does some good work on that. So if you haven't checked it out, get on our Facebook page and check out some great articles and stuff that Ken posts. Well, let's talk about the first time we saw this movie. How about you, Ken?
I saw it in theaters when it came out. I'm a big fan of the Addams Family. I own the TV show, not the rights to it, but I own a box set of the TV show.
That'd be great if you own the rights to it.
It'd be cooler if you owned the rights to it.
That's why we're doing this podcast. I need to make some money. I also have watched the Addams Family cartoon movies, so I'm a pretty big fan of it. You know, I like the Wednesday series that came out on Netflix. That was done really well. I enjoy this type of humor. You know, I grew up with a lot of reruns of the Addams Family and the Munsters, so this is kind of like in my wheelhouse.
You know, this movie for me, I saw this probably on DVD rental sometime in the 90s. I've seen all the Addams Family movies, but I wasn't really big on the TV show or the cartoons. You know, I never watched those growing up. Obviously, I didn't grow up in the mid 60s, but when they were on reruns, I never really watched them or got into them. And I did not see the Wednesday series, so I can't really comment on that. So what about you, Ted?
It would have been a rental. I do remember seeing it. When I was watching it this week, I remembered watching it as a kid. I remember watching the reruns of the Addams Family. I'm actually a little bit more of a Munsters fan, but that's because of my affinity for Rob Zombie, because he's a huge Munsters person. He directed the Netflix movie The Munsters, which I guess wasn't very good, but
no, it sucked.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
He was stick to Night of 1,000 Corpses and let it be.
Oh, well, that's that's one of my favorites. That's my affinity. But I do remember watching the reruns of the Addams Family. They would come on after Saturday morning wrestling. KTLR.
There's a nice segue, huh? Wrestling into the Munsters?
Or into the Addams Family, yeah. It was an interesting
Family, of course. Yes.
Yeah, no, it was WWF at the time, and then right into the Addams Family. And so yeah, I remember that. Fond memories of that. And as far as the movies, I don't believe, if memory serves me correct, I didn't watch Addams Family's Values. And I've not yet watched the Wednesday. It is in my queue because I've heard amazing things about it. I dig the Addams Family. And out of this movie, I do like some of the actors. I really like Raul Julia and Christopher Lloyd and Angelica Houston. So,
well, because you dig the Addams Family, what qualifies you to review this movie?
Well, I can stick a light bulb in my mouth and make it light up. So
that's not what you told me where you could stick it, but okay. Yeah. How about you, Ken?
Well, like this movie, it looks at the book Gone with the Wind the same way I do. It blows.
A lot of hot air.
Yeah, when he opens the book up and it just blows all that. Yeah, that's how I think about Gone with the Wind myself.
Well, kind of like the Addams Family, I came from a bizarre, macabre, aristocratic family, so I can relate to them.
There you go. I think everybody comes from a little bit of a weird and dysfunctional type
Not
of
as weird as
family.
them, but yeah.
No, yeah.
Well, tell us about the particulars on the Addams Family, Ted.
Okay, so the Addams Family is directed by Barry Sonnenfeld. It is a screenplay by Caroline Thompson and Larry Wilson. It's based off of the characters created by Charles Addams. It has a running time of 99 minutes. It was released November 22nd, 1991, so I'm assuming that this was a Thanksgiving week release. Ken, you saw it in the movie theater. Did you see it on Thanksgiving week?
Yes, I saw this on Thanksgiving. I have a Thanksgiving ritual that I see a movie before, on, or after Thanksgiving every year.
Right.
And this was
What did you see last year?
Heck if I remember.
That was a great movie.
Yeah, it was a great
Heck
movie.
if I remember. I love
Heck
it.
if I
What did
remember.
I see? What
won,
did I see last year?
It won Best Picture this year, didn't it?
Yeah.
I'm curious to what you're going to go see this year, or approaching Thanksgiving here.
The movies that are out there are pretty sad. This was like the saddest year, I think, since COVID, of movies being released in the theater. I mean, we had Beetlejuice, and Deadpool, but outside of that, there wasn't anything that really excited me.
I'm waiting for a COVID movie to come out.
Yeah, right. I'm surprised there hasn't been one that hasn't been done yet.
COVID, the movie. Irwin Allen presents COVID, the movie. Dun,
No,
dun, dun.
I'm excited to see Wicked.
The movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the musical we saw in downtown Chicago was absolutely amazing.
Cool.
Addams Family had a budget of $30 million. It had a box office gross of $191.5 million. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score. Both the critics and the audience are exactly the same, which is very odd. It's at 67%, so just below the threshold for certified fresh. And it has an IMDb rating of 6.9, so IMDb is right alongside them, alongside Rotten Tomatoes. The Addams Family stars Angelica Houston as Morticia Addams, Raul Julia as Gomez Addams, Christopher Lloyd as Uncle Fester, Christina Ricci as Wednesday Addams, Jimmy Workman as Pugsley Addams, Judith Molina as Grandma, Carol Stryukin as Lurch, Christopher Hart as Thing, John Franklin as Cousin It, Elizabeth Wilson as Abigail Craven, Dan Hedaya as Tully Alford, Dana Ivey as Margaret Alford, Paul Benedict as Judge George Womack. There's 2 cameos. Sally Jesse Raphael stars as herself. And the director Barry Sonnenfeld stars as a passenger on Gomez's train.
2 funny cameos I did enjoy. All right, Ken, production. I bet you got some great ones on this one.
The idea of this film came from Scott Rudin, who was the head of production back in 20th Century Fox. So they were riding in a van with a bunch of other executives, and they had just seen a movie screening. Everybody was there, I guess, like as far as studio chiefs go. One of their kids started singing the song to the Addams Family. And then everybody else started doing it. And so the next day, Scott decided to go ahead and propose to make a Addams Family movie just because of what happened during that car ride. But there were problems with that, of course. So the rights, they didn't own the rights at the time. Orion Pictures owned the rights to the Addams Family, and they would not sell the property. They were planning to do a reboot of the TV series. Yeah, those doesn't work real well. I was surprised to see that the Munsters, they did a reboot, and it actually lasted for 5 years. I remember the reboot, and I watched one episode and thought it was morbid.
Wasn't that on like UPN or WB or something?
Something like that.
The colorization on it was creepy.
Oh yeah, it was not good at all. But for some reason, it lasted for a pretty long time. And another difficulty was that the Addams Family wasn't really hot at that particular time because it wasn't being played in syndication at that time frame. So they didn't know if that would be a good idea to do a movie on a TV show that isn't really being played over the last few years. The production moved forward, though, when the Addams widow sold the remaining rights to Orion, who put the film in production with Rudin producing. They wanted Terry Gilliam or Tim Burton to direct the film, but both declined, which I was kind of surprised with Tim Burton because this is like right up his alley. And then, of course, 30 years later, he does Wednesday.
Well, he was scheduled to direct this movie because one of the lady writer is one of his cohorts. I wonder if the reason that he didn't direct it was because he was still under contract at Disney. Because I read the book Disney War, which is an amazing book. It talks about a lot about this era of the Michael Eisner era of Disney. He was under contract at Disney, which is why they put out The Nightmare Before Christmas and a couple of his other things. So I wonder if that's why they didn't let him go and direct it, because otherwise it would have been a Touchstone movie, because Touchstone was Disney's real movie studio.
Well, I know that he had just came off of doing Edward Scissorhands. It might also be that he was, getting ready to do the sequel for Batman Returns. So that could also have played into this a little bit. Yeah, because he did have...
The only good part about that is Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, I would agree with that, which is kind of sad because you have a pretty strong cast there.
Really strong cast.
They screwed up the Penguin. That was the problem.
I mean, I can understand why they went with Danny DeVito,
because he looks like a penguin.
Yeah.
He could have played the Penguin had they played it straight. But Tim Burton can never do anything.
Have you guys seen that new Penguin series on Max?
No, but it's on my queue because
they rival it like The Sopranos, from what I understand. It's supposed to be really good.
Colin Farrell. Plays Colin Firth.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell plays the Penguin, and I really liked him in that new reboot of Batman that James Patterson starred in. It was really dark.
Also, the film was noted for having some production issues. It was originally developed, like I said, by Orion Pictures, but then the film went $5 million over the budget due to constant rewrites, and people were getting sick.
Like ill sick?
Yeah. They actually had their cinematographer, both their cinematographers got sick, and the director decided to go ahead and do the cinematography himself in this movie.
Barry Sonnenfeld did?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And this is also the first movie that he directed as well. So
that's interesting.
Because of all these problems, Orion was afraid that it was going to flop, so they sold the rights to Paramount, who then completed the film. And then they handled the distribution here in the States, but then Orion distributed it outside of the States through Columbia Pictures. As far as how these characters came about, Anthony Hopkins turned down the role of Uncle Fester.
Good.
Danny DeVito, Jack Nicholson, and Rodney Dangerfield were listed as backups if Lloyd decided not to do it.
Oh, Dangerfield, that would have been a totally different movie.
That would have been a totally different movie.
That would have been just like... He would not have been good in that role, but it would have been a completely different movie.
Anthony Hopkins coming off of Silence of the Lambs, they wanted him to play Uncle Fester.
Yeah.
But he didn't have the weight to be an Uncle Fester.
He wouldn't have been...
Lloyd was the toothpick.
True, but he pulled it off with the head.
He had a fat suit.
Well, of course.
Cher wanted to play the role of Morticia.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, and I didn't find out why, but they didn't give it to her. And they also had Olivia Hussey.
I could see Cher in that role.
I could see her in that role. The weird choice, though, the one that actually was ready to go for this was Kim Basinger.
Yeah, I read that too. That's crazy.
But she dropped out to do The Marrying Man with Alec Baldwin, which, oh my gosh, talk about a bad movie.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Would they have covered up her signature blonde locks? And
they'd have to.
Sure.
But
I just don't think she could pull that off.
No. She had the figure to. But yeah, Angelica Houston is great here. But I guess they did everything but torture her to get the figure for Morticia. Yeah, she was in a metal corset.
Ooh.
And
metal,
huh?
Yeah, and then some eye lifts and some neck tucks and
like physical surgery on her?
No, what they did was they took
like prosthetics, kind of.
No, they took like fishing line
for
her on her eyes and to push them back. She said at the end of every day that she was filming that she would end up with severe headaches and backaches.
I didn't see anybody else who was up for the role for Gomez besides Raul Julia, but I know Raul Julia was ecstatic to play this part. In fact, he called it his favorite part that he's ever been associated with in his lifetime.
Interesting.
I think he liked it because kids and families liked it, and he was noticed more for doing this role out in public than any other role that he had done. Which makes sense based on the movies he usually does are a little bit more
serious.
Serious, exactly. Why so serious? There was a lawsuit then that was also filed against the Addams Family from the executive producer David Levy, who did the original TV series, but it was eventually settled off court. So that's what I have for production notes. How about you go right ahead and start us off with a setup there, Eric?
So, this setup, Gomez Addams laments the 25-year absence of his brother Fester, who disappeared after the two had a falling out. Gomez's lawyer, Tully Alford, owes money to a loan shark / con artist, Abigail Craven, and notices that her adopted son, Gordon, closely resembles Fester. Tully proposes that Gordon poses Fester to infiltrate the Addams household and find the hidden vault where they keep their vast riches. Tully and his wife Margaret attend a seance at the Addams home led by Grandma, in which the family tries to contact Fester's spirit. Gordon arrives posing as Fester, while Abigail poses as a German psychiatrist, Dr. Greta Pinder-Schloss. She tells the family that Fester had been lost in the Bermuda Triangle for the past 25 years until she found him in some tuna nets. Gomez, overjoyed to have Fester back, takes him to the family vault to view home movies from their childhood. Gordon learns the reason for the brothers' falling out. Gomez was jealous of Fester's success with women and wooed the conjoined twins Flora and Fauna Amor away from him out of envy. Never thought of Fester as a woman's man, huh?
That's kind of the inside joke, of course,
Yes.
is that, yeah. Like,
Very much
like
so.
They're watching the films and stuff, sticking his finger in the girl's ear. Because
Yeah.
that's what a ladies' man does, right?
Apparently, yes.
So the beginning of the film is you got the carolers, and they're singing their song, and so you have this like Christmas thing. It feels very Tim Burton-like, right?
It does, yes.
It's
yes.
extremely Tim Burton.
Unfortunately.
And then, of course, you pan up to see the Addams Family getting ready to like pour like hot tar on them. If you watch the rest of the film, outside of the door, there's a tar splatter there, which is kind of funny that they've cut that in for the rest of the movie. I thought that was kind of cool.
That is very good.
It's very ironic that carolers would be in front of their house to get past the gate.
Right.
It doesn't let people in.
Well, unless the gate has a sense of humor.
Well, yeah, the gate has emotion. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
Right off the bat, we know what we're dealing with. I like the Gomez characters. It's just great. Raul Julia, I understand why he thought that this one is one of his favorite roles of all time, because of the fact that he gets to ham it up. He gets to really a lot of fun with this, take liberties, and just.
Oh, he's out of control, and that's what he wants. It's perfect.
It's perfect. It's almost like an actor's dream to kind of just throw caution to the wind and just see what happens, right? This is really kind of a love story between, Gomez and Morticia.
Very much so.
Yeah.
You have all these comedy elements, but from start to finish, it's really about the relationship that these two have and how family is so important to the Addams Family. And that's something that you got on the original TV show. There's some changes, of course, from the TV show comic strip to this movie. But the one thing that's constant is the love for each other. And there's a decent chemistry here between Julia and Houston, which I wasn't the biggest Angelica Houston fan coming into this. And I was a little worried. Yeah, I was a little worried going into this that, I don't know, because I always felt like she was kind of stiff. Which
but
actually
this
works
character
for
is
her.
perfect here. Yes, that's
She there's a reason she's stiff, is because she's in a metal corset.
Well, right.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying that she was a bad actress. I didn't care for the roles that she had played up to this. And of course, at this time, I was only 19 years old when I saw this film. So,
not like Angelica Houston's on the top of your list of actresses.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Kim Basinger would have been a little bit more.
Right.
Would have fit the bill. We're introduced to all the different characters, and you have the kids who are constantly trying to knock each other off and one up each other.
Kill each other, pretty much.
Yeah. Let's play a game.
Let's play a game.
Is there a God?
Is there a God? Yes.
Okay, so
and the mother's like, now, children.
There are a few things that I do like here. Of course, Raul Julia is amazing. He's over the top, which plays perfectly to Angelica Houston's more reserved, laid back, small C conservative Morticia. I think that they play off each other very well that way. The things that make me chuckle the most are the relationship between Pugsley and Wednesday, where they keep trying to off each other. I think that that's pretty hilarious. And I do like let's play Is There a God? I think that made me chuckle out loud.
I love the mom's like, we're running late,
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead. It's
right.
It's that bizarre kind of macabre family that you've grown to love with the Addams Family.
She comes with a knife.
Yes.
And she's like, is that for your brother? No, I don't think so. And then she gives her a bigger one.
She gives him like an old fashioned.
Everything that they do is considered normal in their household,
right?
And that's what's so awesome. It's over the top, crazy.
It's perfect satire, and that every family is a little odd. That's what makes it work. The aspects that I don't care for are it does come off very, very Tim Burton-ish.
And we all know his hatred of Tim Burton, ladies and gentlemen.
You can see that how the writers were in tune with him, and that he should have been the director of this movie.
Oh, this is going to be a prelude to his review, isn't it?
It's just you can really tell, just like the opening scene.
And I agree with you. This does have a lot of Tim Burton overtones in it, clearly.
I will say that they kept some of the best parts of Tim Burton into this movie, but they also let some of the worst parts in as well. Yeah, I like the opening scene. I like that they pour the hot oil or hot tar on the carolers.
Hot something.
So I do have a question. So the movie starts out with carolers. Is the Addams Family considered a Christmas movie then?
Sure.
It must have had to take time during. Yeah, okay, Die Hard. Yeah,
well,
I guess it's considered a Christmas movie.
You have 30 seconds dedicated to Christmas. I don't think it goes as a Christmas movie.
I'd actually rather watch the Addams Family for 24 hours than the Christmas Story.
That is sacrilegious. You bite your tongue, man.
Agree with that, though. I do like the clock that they have at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
It is.
I want that clock.
I want that clock.
Yeah.
But do you see that Pugsley is hanging Wednesday in the clock?
Yes.
Yes. Cool. Yeah, it's awesome. To me, that's something that you would have saw in the original TV show.
Yeah. You're right.
And it's a practical effect, too. It's so cool. If there's one artifact out of this movie that I would want, it would have been the clock.
That clock is awesome. Yeah.
It's because it's cool as well.
I would disagree with you as far as the children, because I feel like the children in the original series were extremely reserved. In fact, they were so background characters that they were basically not really. I almost felt like you could do the show without them. But in this movie, they really depend on having the kids as an important part of the cast. Christina Ricci has gone on to do a lot of stuff throughout the years.
Great things.
And she's actually in the new Wednesday series.
The guy who played Pugsley, he ended up becoming a set person and working behind the scenes. And he actually wanted to work behind the scenes, and they had to stop him on the Addams Family.
His sister was up for the role as well for Wednesday. And they were, I think, considering doing a brother-sister in real life, for this movie. But they decided that could be also problematic. So they decided not to go that route.
I'm glad they chose Christina Ricci. I think she does a really good job.
Yeah, I think she does a phenomenal job.
Considering she's only 9 or 10 years old at this particular time, there's a reason why, in Addams Family Values, which I've seen, she actually becomes almost the lead in that film because the parts that she's in here, she excels.
She knocks it out of the park.
Pretty much all the main characters do. The casting of this, you couldn't have done any better, really. Like we talked about earlier, Sir Anthony Hopkins. Now, I mean, he's a great actor, but let's be honest.
I can't. No, he's too serious of an actor.
This is way above his pay grade.
Yeah, or below his pay grade.
Below his pay grade. Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
yes.
No. What was he in The Age of Innocence? Or we're talking about a serious actor who
Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't. That doesn't work. I will say this. I do like the fact that Dan Hedaya is the weasel tax guy or his accountant.
So let me ask you this: is he an accountant or a lawyer? Because he says he's on retainer. And
I know,
why do
right?
they need a lawyer?
Because they don't deal with that stuff. They don't deal with paying the expenses.
Any of it. Yeah.
But what do they do? How are they just independently wealthy?
Well, they have all those doubloons.
I know they have, but it's very weird. I'm like, why do they need a lawyer?
See, you're asking too many questions now.
I am.
And,
or maybe he's their accountant. He's probably their accountant.
Probably does both.
Yeah, he's either accountant, but he's a weasel.
Oh, he's a huge weasel.
Dan Hedaya plays the weasel perfect. And he's an understated
He's Carla's
guy.
husband in Cheers.
Right.
Yes, it's perfect.
He's one of those character actors that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, and he does get some attention here, and I like that. And he's just over the top enough that it works. Where this starts to lose me, I'm glad that the cast revolted against the writers, and we'll talk about that later in the movie. But I don't like the fact that Gordon is not Fester. I don't like that at all. I think it's convoluted.
Mean early on?
Yeah.
I mean, the original idea of it.
Yeah, I think it's convoluted. It's stretching it a little bit too far, because now they kind of want to turn it into a heist movie a little bit, and that doesn't fit the whole thing. And I do like that we get to see Cousin Thing.
Cousin It,
and Thing.
Way to lend a hand, Thing.
well, and I can't wait to discuss that later. This is the worst parts of Tim Burton, where it gets convoluted and it gets really stuck. You have an amazing actor in Christopher Lloyd. He acts with his face and his body so well. You're using him as kind of this bad guy. I never buy it.
I like it. I think it's a nice side story. I mean, you need something to kind of be there besides just the Addams Family doing Addams Family things. You need a plot.
Gomez pisses off that judge. Why not have the judge be the bad guy?
Judge is kind of a bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, they make him out to be the bad guy. And
yeah,
why not?
A little bit.
Why not just have him be the bad guy and just go that route and have him be the main antagonist? You don't. I mean, the
plot of this movie is pretty
thin,
color by numbers, very turnkey. You can almost predict how this thing is going to go from like scene to scene to scene. That's my one major critique is you can almost see how this thing is going to roll out.
And you can still have Dan Hedaya's character be weaselly and trying to get.
Well, he has to be weaselly. There's no other point for him to be in the movie.
Yeah, trying to get their fortune in different ways.
Hey, let me ask you guys this: in the TV series, did they have a lot of money too? Did they have a fortune?
I don't think
they were pretty well to do.
Were they?
Yeah, I don't think they ever really talked about it.
They never really talked about it, but they had a lot of they had a lot of the stuff. So I would think they were okay to do. So, but I'm going to disagree here because first off, if we go back to the original series, the TV series, Uncle Fester is kind of, let's just be honest, a little annoying. You know, I kind of like what they're doing here with Fester because it gives him a little bit more of a rounded character. I mean, let's be honest. He has characteristics of an Addams. He loves, his explosives.
That was always his thing in the original.
He apparently
TV
knows
show.
how to dance
out
of nowhere.
The bummers could.
I mean, I do that from time to time out of nowhere.
Of course, yes.
Start dancing.
Yeah.
I kind of like the way they're dealing with Fester because I think if you bring Fester in the way he was in the TV series, his character is second rate to, let's say, like I said, Morticia and Gomez. Where here, because of the size of his role and what you're doing with it, I think it allows this character to kind of be judged by itself. You have the kids they're going against each other. You have Morticia and Gomez. They have their thing going. You have to give something for Fester to do. And I think this is the right thing to do. Christopher Lloyd, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated actors out there. I mean, he's done so many things. And Back to the Future, of course, is one of the biggest ones that he does. But he is also like
Taxi.
a big Taxi is
Taxi
another
was
one.
A big role. That was his breakout.
But he's also been an executive producer on TV shows. Modern Family is one of his
huge
shows. So he is a very multi-talented kind of guy. And I just feel like, but at the same time, he's kind of under the radar because he's always like that second character that he doesn't ever have that top lead. He's always like second or third, but he always does a good job with what he does.
Yeah.
I think he does a really good job here. And I don't mind him being the bad guy who's wrestling between wanting to be an Addams, but being loyal to his mother, which, we find out later that that's not really his mother, but he doesn't know that because he's got amnesia from the Bermuda Triangle. I think the plot is okay. Is it great? No, it's not the best plot, but we don't care about plot here. We care about the characters. We care about the interactions between Gomez and Morticia and, like I said, the kids and all that, how that all is done. And as far as Tully's character, I love the fact that Gomez adores him. And, they fence. I mean, really, if Tully just says, I need money, I think Gomez just gives him the money.
Probably.
And even his wife even says, why don't you ask for a loan?
Right.
Because I can't, because if I do, then the movie would be over.
Right.
Right. So, in my opinion, I think that the movie works best when it acts like a cartoon strip. And because that's what the Addams Family was. So I think that if you have Dan Hidea's Tully character trying to get into the vault and having something blow up in his face all the time, I think that that's pretty funny. Then you have the judge trying to evict them from the house. There's so many inventive ways, because they are the Addams Family, that you could have played off Dan Hidea's Tully character to fail to get into the vault, that it could have been funny. But you're right, Ken. Fester was never a huge character. He wasn't a popular character until they made a Nintendo video game out of him. Do you remember the Nintendo video game?
Fester the game?
I do not.
No, I don't either.
Look it up. It was one of the hardest Nintendo games out there.
To find or play?
To play. It was so difficult. I remember playing it. He was a background character. His thing was always explosives and lightning, because he was supposed to kind of be like Igor.
Mm-hmm.
Because they all have, Lurch is supposed to be Frankenstein. And
right,
blah, blah, blah,
yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
How about a Lurch spinoff? Haven't had any of those, have we?
Well, he doesn't
Cousin
do
or
a
It?
lot.
Cousin It?
Yeah.
I was actually disappointed on how Lurch is portrayed. I do miss the Urang from the TV show. It would have been nice to have that in this one. I mean, he's mute in the original cartoon strip.
Well, Frankenstein was mute.
But he does have the facial expressions when he's like talking to Cousin It. But
he drinks Wednesday's concoction and blows out fire.
I also like Tully's wife. She is kind of a nice little character to have. I do like the fact that she keeps on locking herself with the finger trap.
Yes, that is pretty funny, and
it's an ongoing gag.
Her funniest part comes later in the movie.
Yes,
though.
it does.
Yes, it does. Yeah, I do think the supporting roles. I don't know how much I feel about Dr. Greta. Dr. Greta is a little much for me. I think with the fake accent and
that whole character could have been done away with.
Well, she's kind of needed in this type of plot because you need somebody that brings Fester back.
Because you made it convoluted.
I don't think it's convoluted at all, but I mean, we got the same. I mean, we have the seance, and the seance is how you bringing in Fester, and I think it's the right way to bring Fester in. And
yeah, I mean that's perfectly fine if that's how you wanted to introduce the Fester character. I mean,
it's perfect for Tully and his wife, obviously, to be there because they need to be.
Well, they're also like friends too. So
well, they are, but generally, it's weird to have people that are not part of your family at a seance. I mean,
that's their only friends that they have, and they probably need more people for a seance.
And they're really not friends if you think about it.
Well, no, Gomez really likes Tully.
Gomez does, but I don't know if Tully's in it for the money. I think.
Yeah, Tully's in it for the money. Tully doesn't realize how much he has. I mean, throughout the whole film, they tell them how much they could have been good friends.
Yes.
You're evil, you're conniving. We could have been such great friends. But I like Raul Julia's like expressions throughout the whole movie. And here, when you have Tully's wife was like, "This is preposterous," and he goes, "Yes, it is," but he's really excited about it being preposterous. It's
Right.
the reactions from Raul Julia throughout the whole film is what really, I think, drives this movie. When he gets
clearly
frustrated about who Fester is, but then when he gets excited who Fester is, his excitement for Morticia, especially when she speaks French.
Right.
Yes,
right.
yes.
I mean, it could come off being sad because
Cartoonish,
of the fact that it was done in the original series by Aston, but he still pulls it off and makes it his own.
I'll say something heretical. Raul Julia is a better Gomez Addams than John Aston was.
Well, if it coming like a campy TV show, John Aston did a great job. I mean, for the era.
But Raul Julia,
I will slightly agree with you on this. Raul Julia is my favorite version of Gomez Addams. Yeah, but I do like John Aston's version as well. There's kind of two different versions a little bit. They're played somewhat the same. There's differences in them that make them unique to themselves, which I appreciate. And that's why I'm saying with the French thing, Raul Julia, it could come off as being, John Aston's already done this. Why are you doing this again? But it comes off, being something that feels a little bit more, it does feel kind of original. And actually, I don't like the other versions of Gomez and other productions I don't care for the Wednesday Gomez character. Not a big fan of the cartoon version of Addams Family. Tim Curry played Gomez Addams in a sequel to this. It was kind of like a reboot since Raul Julia had died. They did a TV movie of the Addams Family.
Oh my God, I think I remember that.
I think I briefly remember it too.
Yeah,
and it was horrible.
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry's amazing.
But Raul Julia is basically the best version of this. And again, at the seance table, you have Pugsley has a big butcher knife.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like, "Stop it."
That's one of the best parts of the movie is them going back and forth trying to kill each other. It's great. You probably want to move on to the next section.
The build. Gomez starts to suspect that Fester is an imposter when he is unable to recall important details about their past. Gordon attempts to return to the vault, but is unable to get past the booby traps. Gomez's wife Morticia reminds Fester of the importance of family among the Addamses and of their vengeance against those who cross them. Fearing that the family is getting wise to their con, Abigail, under the guise of Dr. Pinderschloss, convinces Gomez that his suspicions are due to displacement. Gordon, under the guise of Fester, grows closer to the Addams family, particularly the children, Wednesday and Pugsley, whom he helps to prepare a swordplay sequence for a school play. Abigail had insisted that Gordon not attend the play, but after feeling deeply saddened by this, he attends anyway. After the play, Dr. Pinderschloss insists that Fester must once again leave, so the Addamses throw a large party with their extended family and friends, during which Abigail plans to break into the vault. Wednesday overhears the two discussing the plan and escapes them by hiding in the family cemetery. Tully learns that as the elder brother, Fester is the executor of the Addams estate and therefore technically owns the entire property. With help from the Addams' neighbor, Judge George Womack, whom Gomez has repeatedly infuriated by hitting golf balls into his house, Tully procures a restraining order against the family, banning them from the estate. Gomez attempts to fight the order in court, but Judge Womack rules against him out of spite. Now it gets interesting, right?
Get the golf ball. I got plenty right here.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
See, that's funny.
It is. He doesn't realize that he's doing damage to his neighbor's property. He's like, why is he? Oh, the golf ball. Don't worry about it.
As you read it,
yes,
it highlights kind of how convoluted the story gets.
It does
That's
go
your
a little
word for the day.
convoluted.
Convoluted.
Yeah. It gets so bogged down in the minutia. You have to worry about Gordon. See, this is why I think that Tully trying to break into the vault and getting different things happen to him would be funny, is because it is kind of funny to watch Gordon try to get into the vault and he
Exactly.
fails and different things happen to him. Okay, I mentioned it briefly a little bit before. So the cast revolted essentially against the director and the writers. And they said that Gordon should be Fester. And so they finally gave in. Do you really need the scenes where, you have Gordon trying to become, he's starting to feel heartsick about not being an Addams, and there's that whole storyline that is just kind of, it doesn't need to be there.
I don't know. I disagree because I think the character comes across as being sympathetic. You like a character who's struggling between right and wrong, and Tully would never be right or wrong. Tully would just be wrong. He would just be a weasel throughout the whole film.
That's what makes it funny when he gets blown up and things for trying to break into the vault.
Tully's not a well-rounded character. How are you going to well-round? I think at least Fester is more well-rounded because he has, things pulling him one way and things pulling him another way. Tully would just be basically just consistently at it. And for me, he's not an interesting character enough for that. Okay. There's a reason why he is a fifth or sixth character in this movie.
You could have made him interesting.
Then you would have to need another actor in that situation then. So I don't think, as much as he's a good character actor, he doesn't have that big of a range. He comes off being the same type of guy in every single movie that he's in.
Oh, Dan Hedaya?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, he is the stereotype that he plays in every movie.
You would need So you would need a totally new actor for this if you're going to make him.
Except in Running Scared, where he's the police chief.
Yeah, that's good.
But he still has the same mannerisms, though.
Same mannerisms, yes. Well, that's what I'm saying. He's limited in his range as an actor. And I'm not saying that's bad to a certain extent. But if you want him to be the big baddie here, because that's what you're saying, you want him to be the big baddie here, you need to totally rewrite his character.
I actually want the judge to be the big baddie.
But then you need to get a different character for that, too.
Okay. To me, the Addams Family, it always reminds me of Black and White. And there's a little bit of a silent movie type of a thing to the Addams Family that I think that, it's like the pie in the face type of a thing. So if you have the Tully character continually getting the pie in the face, it becomes funny.
But he does get that throughout the whole movie. Tully does get bad things happen to him. You have the thing going on with the gate.
Right. That's funny. To me that's funny.
That was funny.
And that's what makes me chuckle. It doesn't make me chuckle to watch Fester / Gordon, because at the end of the day, we know that Gordon is Fester. He looks just like him. It's not that big of a stretch, and
we don't need him to be funny, though. Here's the thing: you don't need things to happen to Fester to be too funny, because you got so much things that are funny around Fester.
But he's the light bulb in the mouth guy.
Yeah, but you don't.
That's funny.
I understand that's funny, but you also don't need this to be a Naked Gun airplane style type of movie.
No, I'm
where
not saying
everything is funny.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that where it could have been serious between the Addams Family and the judge, you don't need the bogged down storyline where they're trying to rob them, and then you have the mom character hitting Fester or hitting Gordon and is mean to him, and it's weird to me, and it just doesn't fit. At the end of the day,
they want to try and make it a little bit independent of the TV show. You can't just have every character be a carbon copy of that.
Yeah.
You have to give them a little bit of a newer spin. That's only normal.
At the end of the day, this is a comedy.
And, it is a comedy. Yeah.
And I mean, you don't need to pull at heartstrings and things like that. That doesn't really work.
You still want sympathetic characters, though, in the movie. It's still a movie from start to finish. It's not, like I said, it's not Naked Gun. It's not Airplane. I think it has the spirit of the comic strip and the TV show. I think it does a good job of holding on to that spirit. So his character is basically one who's always been one who hasn't gotten the girls, who is kind of like the third wheel. And I think him latching onto a mother figure is actually in his character. And she's abusive. You know what? Adam's kind of like abusive relationships. Let's be honest. At the beginning of the movie, Morticia talks about, you were unhinged last night. You were like a crazy wild man. Do it again. That's how they are.
That's funny.
Right. That's funny. But we don't need, I think, their relationship to be funny. You got the baddies getting what they deserve at the end of the movie. I don't think it's doing way too much. I think it's doing what it needs to do. I think you need a subplot. Now, when we go to Addams Family Values, I can make some arguments a little bit there about being a little bit off the beaten path. But I like this because I do like Gomez's struggle with if this is his brother or not. It's 25 years. I do like his struggle. I love the trains. I love when he's sitting there playing with his trains and they're talking about, oh no, he's got the diesel going.
Right.
I like that.
Are they full size trains? They have to be,
No.
right?
No,
He's got little
trains.
people in the cabin.
Yeah, he's got a person in there.
But
I don't know.
It makes you wonder: did they shrink them down? Were they real people at one time, and that they shrunk down?
This is very weird.
Well, you see one person, so maybe it was like a door-to-door salesman, and they put him on a train or something.
I mean, I do like the whole train thing, and you could have had Fester come back with a seance and have amnesia. Yeah, I mean that would have been perfectly fine, and and then have Gomez question, is this really my brother because he has amnesia and blah blah blah. But it's just to have him be another character.
Think how they get into the vault. What book do they use to get into the vault?
Greed.
Oh, Greed. Yeah.
Greed.
So Greed, that's part of their family. So it isn't uncommon for Fester to want this money based on his character. I just disagree with you. I don't really care about the judge. I think the judge does enough. He annoys the judge enough for the judge to, take him away from his house. That's fine. I think Tully is perfectly the way that he is.
There's so much fruit on that tree that the Addams family could have done to the judge to drive him crazy because they are eccentric. And it would drive a neighbor crazy. I don't know. It's just to me that there's a different path here that.
I'm not saying that there couldn't be a different path. I just think the path that they took wasn't the wrong path either. Your path might be a right path to take as well, but I don't think they've taken a wrong path here. Considering how many rewrites was going on in this film, I think the story comes off really well.
And that's a problem. And the fact that you had to have the cast essentially rise up in opposition to how things were going.
That's all you keep on going back to is, well, the cast did this, and you mentioned it 3 or 4 times already.
What? That's the tale of a bad write.
Well, so it's one bad, and basically they still did the same thing throughout the whole movie, except at the end, the reveal was he was the brother. That's the only change. It doesn't change anything else in the movie except the ending. And I agree with the cast here that's how it should have gone. We look at other movies that do everything very well, but there's one area where they mess up. And this is a first-time director, too. Let's not forget. So,
who's actually a really good director.
Who turns out to be a very good director. I'm happy that they went the route that they did. I agree. But just because they say that they disagreed with how they were going to end the movie doesn't mean that all this is bullshit up to this, to the end. I think it's a solidly written film. I agree with you. Could you done things differently and still maybe had the same effect? Yeah, or even better, possibly. But I don't think this is bad. I don't think this is bad by any stretch. And like I said, we don't care about the plot. The plot isn't what's important here. It's how the characters interact with each other, and they are doing it justice. There's no interaction between the characters that feels disjointed or off, or you're like, I don't care for that. Every time the characters interact with each other, you enjoy it. And I like the fact that Fester doesn't remember certain things. Then you have Morticia putting things straight, letting Fester know, hey, they walk through the graveyard, and she introduces each person and how they died.
I like that. That's really cool.
And he even understands what it means to be an Addams. And I think after that walkthrough, he really wants to be an Addams.
You get that Gordon wants to be an Addams,
But
which
that's
is
the
why
thing.
he ends up being Fester. It makes it weird.
Yeah, Gordon is us. Fester is us. We want to be an Addams. You know,
We do?
and I think I want to be an Addams. I think that would be
that's
a
kind of the whole
fun
point.
family to be with. I think that's what the character does. I think the character is letting you be part of the ride and having the same desires that you. I want to be the Addams, but there's things that would stop us from being an Addams.
Yeah.
First of all, we can't pour tar on Christmas carolers, but
That would
be
be
fun, though.
that
It
would be kind
fun,
of
though.
It would be fun, though. Yes, I agree.
But they do things
What?
that are fun that we wish we would do, and I think, I like the Fester that has to struggle between that. I really like that.
Okay. What Shakespeare play were Pugsley and Wednesday?
It wasn't
mimicking?
really a real Shakespeare play. It was based off of Shakespeare. There was one line,
Okay.
I think, that comes from like what Henry V or something like that.
I think so, because I was trying to place exactly where
the
where-
line that a hit,
Yeah,
I think is
yeah.
from Henry V, but everything else
Okay.
is just kind of made up.
But yeah, no, I think that's pretty funny. I like that part.
That is a
That
funny
they have
scene
the,
at the
they-
school
they
play.
have the fake blood and everything.
It's just squirt all over the place.
It's if it was just a little bit, it wouldn't be nearly as funny
Right.
as the fact that they soak like the first 4 rows.
And it never stops coming, even when they're taking their
Right,
bow. It's still
exactly.
coming out.
It just
Great.
still keeps coming, and
Right.
that's yeah.
And the
it's-
judge is in
Wednesday
the
mi-
first rows too.
right,
Just
right,
pisses him off even more.
right.
And Wednesday is like overdoing it with the death scene. She's like
Yes.
overselling it.
Of course.
Of course, they're the only ones that stand up and applaud.
Of course, yeah.
But they're
that's awesome.
disgusted by the rest of the play. So they have these
Right.
kids, these little kids singing these songs.
Right, right.
The Addams
And
Family
they're
is
just like,
Yeah.
oh my
it's-
gosh, what are we into here? If we had
It's-
tar, we would dump it over the kids.
It's a perfect right. It's a perfect Addams Family gag. It's the eccentricity. You have an eccentric family, and that's what they. At the end of the day, that's what they're supposed to represent. And I think it's hilarious. The whole thing, the rule of 3, the rule of 13. If there was just a little bit of blood, not necessarily funny. Over the top blood is now funny.
So one of my favorite parts actually of this is actually the party. First of all, I love the
the
music
extended
and
family and everything.
I love
Yeah.
the room.
Oh, yeah.
It's everything about this is so, and you got these little quirky characters that are all over the place. You got the twins that are basically
Which
they're in a mental
is,
institution.
right, and if that was supposedly the break between Fester and Gomez, they should have made them hotter.
They are like in their 40s at this particular time. I understand what you're saying to
Well,
a certain
Are you
But
extent.
talking about
but-
flora and fauna?
Yeah, but Morticia
Hotter?
is like va-va-voom.
Well, that's the joke. That's the inside joke, is that
Okay.
they aren't hotter than Morticia. In fact, Morticia is like, you're twice the woman that I am.
Yes,
So
exactly.
Yeah.
it's these jokes. It's
Okay.
like, well, Fester
All right.
being the ladies' man, and then you got these two that are from an insane asylum on a day pass.
Oh my god.
So-
Yeah.
It's fun. You got Cousin It.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite thing throughout the whole movie
Cousin It.
is the fact that Cousin It steals Tully's wife
Right.
away
He's
from
the
him.
ladies' man.
Yes. That is freaking hilarious. It's funny. It's funny how she interacts with him and can understand him, and nobody else can understand him. And they all pretend like they understand him, but she's the only one that understands what he's saying. I think it's hilarious. I love every single one of those gags. It makes me laugh.
We can't. But
Right.
call me.
Exactly. It's great. It's absolutely great. That hit the full mark.
It makes her
for me.
character even more likable because of the fact that she's got a relationship going with Cousin It. It's
Yeah.
She's part of the family now, right?
yeah.
Right. She essentially does what she told Tully to do, which is to essentially become part of the family. Because
Yeah.
Gomez would have made Tully part of the family. I mean, not an official Addams, but he would have brought him into the fold as part of the family. And so she essentially does what she told him to do the whole movie, is to embrace them. And she does. And yeah, you're exactly right. It rounds out her character perfectly. And it makes her a more important character. I love the cousinette stuff.
I like the Mamushka dance.
The Mamushka
I saw the longer version, and I'm so happy they cut it.
Yeah,
because it was just way too long and
was
gets
it
a little boring.
Really too long?
Yeah, but I do like the dance. I think it's a fun. It really shows them being such a. It's almost like the mafia, but it's the Addams family, right?
Right.
But you have a family gathering like you would in the mafia, like in The Godfather. You have all these people coming to bless Fester. Then you have this special dance that only the two brothers do, kind of like something you would see in The Godfather. I mean, it's
interesting.
Funny.
But it makes you brought up the room. Where exactly in the house is the ballroom? It's a huge ballroom.
It's massive.
But it is. They also have a river underneath their house too.
Yes.
Yeah, let's be honest. I mean, the place is
awesome. It's awesome.
It's exaggerated. That's what I like about it. Is so
the house
big once you
becomes
come
a character.
in.
The house.
The house
is
definitely a character. Yeah,
it's funny. The party scene is my favorite part of the whole movie.
Yeah, I enjoy it immensely. And then you find out that Wednesday finds out that Gordon is not Uncle Fester.
But I think she actually knows that he's Fester, because I feel bad for her because she's kind of heartbroken.
Yeah, she is.
So
she runs away.
To me, it always seemed like she knew that he was Fester.
But she even says to Gomez, but he's not Uncle Fester. All of them want him to be Uncle Fester because that's what's missing in their lives. The one thing that's missing in Gomez's life is that his brother has been gone. Was it Thick as Thieves? Is that the way you say it? Having him there, and that's why Morticia does the walkthrough. I think partly because the one thing that makes Gomez complete is having his brother there. He's adamant about his brother not leaving once he shows up.
Well, every year he's trying to get him back with that seance.
That's
the missing.
Right.
That's the one thing in his life that he regrets. The one thing that makes him sad, that's incomplete, is thing that happened with him and his brother 25 years ago. It's the plot of the movie.
Thing is the hand.
Oh, what I said.
Thing is the hand, yeah.
I actually like go back to the school thing. I like where the teacher comes up to Morticia. I think Morticia plays that perfectly off, and the teacher's played over the top. It works really well. Another scene in which Morticia steals the show.
Does it stick the landing? Let's find out. While Abigail, Gordon, and Tully try repeatedly and unsuccessfully to get past the booby traps blocking access to the vault, the Addamses are forced to move into a motel and find jobs. I love that. Morticia tries to be a preschool teacher. Wednesday and Pugsley sell toxic lemonade. And Thing, the family's animated, disembodied hand, becomes a courier. Despondent Gomez sinks in depression and lethargy. Morticia returns to the Addams home to confront Gordon and is captured by Abigail and Tully, who torture her in an attempt to learn how to access the vault. Thing observes this and informs Gomez using Morse code. The concerned Gomez then rushes to Morticia's rescue, and Abigail threatens Morticia's life if Gomez does not surrender the family fortune. Fed up with the mother's behavior and constant berating, Gordon turns against her using a magical book which projects its contents into reality. He unleashes a hurricane into the house, which strikes his own head with lightning and launches Tully and Abigail out a window and into an open grave dug for them by Wednesday and Pugsley. The movie ends with a coda, taking place 7 months later at Halloween. The family has since figured out that Gordon was actually Fester the whole time and had really gone missing in the Bermuda Triangle, where he was found and adopted by Abigail. However, Fester had suffered from amnesia the whole time and only recovered his memory after being struck by the lightning. With the family whole again, as they play Wake the Dead, Morticia informs Gomez that she is pregnant. Hubba, hubba.
One of my favorite things here is Thing trying to tell Gomez and the different ways that he tries
stuttering.
Yes,
exactly.
I love Gomez just sitting at the table all depressed and stuff with a bowl of cereal.
He calls Sally Jesse Raphael.
No, Mr. Addams, I don't know where they meet.
Because she's doing a thing on voodoo practitioners.
Right.
It's so Sally Jesse Raphael.
It is.
That makes me laugh.
The preschool also, where she's
Yeah.
teaching about
Where
Hansel and Gretel.
She's taking the side of the witch, right? Yeah.
Well, no, she's actually reading the real Grimm fairy tale
Grimm, yeah.
Right.
of Hansel and Gretel, because the Grimm's fairy tales are way different than what the little golden books that we grew up on were. They're much darker.
Which is the helpless witch into the
Right,
fire.
right.
It's awesome.
It's great. My line, of course, is it made out of real? Are they made out of real Girl Scouts? Yeah,
That almost stole the movie. That one scene
of
right
course
there.
it did.
How Christina Ricci just delivers that line. Are they made out of real Girl Scouts?
Yes, straight faced. The Girl Scout asks if the lemonade's made out of real fresh lemons, and
Organic
all this baloney.
lemonade,
Yeah,
and yes.
exactly.
But then you have all these poisons that are on the...
Right, all
Right,
toxins and
right.
stuff, yeah.
Right. It's funny.
It is funny. Probably the line that has lasted the movie its whole life. People
Yes.
use that all the time.
Yes, hands down.
Yes.
By far. And,
But then this is where, again, it comes to the love story.
Right.
Gomez to the rescue to save his true love. I love the fact that Morticia is just like, she's being tortured, and she goes to Telly, "Oh, you've done this before." You know, it's...
because
that
they're
weird
so
erotica.
stupid.
Yeah.
They're so stupid that they think that by torturing her that she would give up. That's not what she's into. Come on.
Gomez is like,
that's pretty
have
funny
pokers, all that,
Right.
and she does later, my dear.
See,
But it's funny. Those are the
funny.
things that are
Those are
funny.
things that make it funny. I like when Fester gets his memory back. He pulls out the book of was a Hurricane Irene or something like that.
Oh, he doesn't have his memory back at that time. He just chooses at that moment that he would rather be in Addams.
That doesn't make any sense. Why would Gordon turn on his mom that way?
Because his mom went off on him, and his mom actually said, "I should have left you where I found you." So he finds out there that he's really not truly her son, and he's tired of her abuse. So he chooses to be with the Addams, because the Addams are the only family that has treated him like a true family member. They have loved him like a true family member. It's the lightning out of the book when he opens the book that actually jogs his memory at the end.
Gotcha. Makes sense, because that lightning was his thing in the series.
I love the books that do a little different things and stuff. Like I said, Gone with the Wind. Right. It's got a lot of wind coming out of it.
Right. A lot of hot wind, a lot of hot air there.
Mm-hmm. This is a fun ending. The one part at the end here that you see all these things like flying around during the hurricane inside this book, inside the library. It reminds me at the beginning of the movie, though, of the polar bear that's on the rug.
Yes,
and he bites Telly at the beginning of the.
I like
that too. It's a little too much of a CGI effect here. I'm not. If there's one thing that I wasn't thrilled with this movie,
the hurricane winds is bad CGI.
Yeah, it's just bad CGI. Yeah, they needed to bring people from Poltergeist in to kind of make this work better. So
it's not even really CGI at this point, is it? Really?
It's not a practical effect.
Some precursor to CGI.
Maybe it's a precursor, but it's not very good looking. But at this time, it's probably all you can do, really.
It does what it needs to do.
I love the fact that, of course, Tully and Gordon's mom are thrown out, and they're tossed out into the graves. Pugsley's like, "Are they dead?" And Wednesday's like, "Does it matter?"
Right.
Yeah. See, here again.
Straight face. Does it matter?
That's funny. And here again, they steal the scene. The ending is okay. I just wish that there was just a little bit of a different spin on it.
I don't know. I enjoy it. I love it when she's they're dressed up for Halloween, and Wednesday looks like herself. What are you, my dear? Oh, I'm a homicidal maniac.
I'm a homicidal maniac because they
look like everybody else.
They look like everyone else.
Yeah, and then they go out and they do the Wake the Dead thing. I like the ending. I think it sticks it pretty good.
It's cheery. It's upbeat.
Yeah, it's true, and it lets us know that there's going to be a sequel because she's pregnant.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting because, we know now that there's going to be a sequel. But did they think that this was going to be super successful, that it was going to need a sequel?
Well,
I think it's when the success hit $191 million box office. I think that's when they realized that there's going to be a sequel.
I think they were open-ended on it because of the fact, well, Paramount bought it from Orion. You don't buy a movie unless you think it's going to be successful.
True. Unless it's like we talked, what was the movie that we talked about that was supposed to be a loss? PCU?
Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh,
Revenge of the Nerds,
yeah. It was supposed to be a write-off loss.
But this movie was bought by one company to another, so
true.
They weren't buying it just for a loss, I don't think.
Yeah, it leaves it open-ended, and which is perfectly fine. Even if there wouldn't have been a sequel, it would have been a perfect way. It would have been a good ending. There's not much more to really hash out here. It's just...
Well, let's go to our reviews. All right, Ken, why don't you kick us off? What are your thoughts?
I love this movie. This is one of my favorite movies. It's something that I watch around Halloween every year, and occasionally maybe during the year. It's a really good film. I think there's a good balance of comedy and a subplot. I mean, as I said earlier, could have been a better plot, sure, but I think it does what it needs to do, because what we're in it for is to hear the interactions between the characters. There were so many lines and so many scenes here in this movie that we didn't touch on that were a lot of fun. We had Gordon, fall to sleep and hand coming in and scaring him. Those type of scenes we left out, and they're good scenes. And there's just a lot of good scenes in here that we could have touched on. I'm going to get straight to the point. This is a 4.5 hook movie for me. I enjoy the sequel as well. We'll hope maybe one day we'll do that one as well, but probably not anytime soon, to be honest with you. Raul Julia is amazing. Again, casting these characters perfectly for their roles. They just interact so well. They are the Addams Family. They are more the Addams Family in this movie than the TV series. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, how about you, Ted?
Oh, I'll start off by agreeing with Ken's last statement. When I think of the Addams Family now, I no longer think of the black and white family. I think of this family because it's an indelible image now. And I think that that's a testament to the movie. I think it's more of a testament to the actors and how they portrayed the characters than anything else. It is perfectly cast. This is one of those rare times where casting director and director really hit home runs on pretty much every character. Yeah, it works that way. I have my problems with some of the story. I would have liked to have seen it go in a little bit of a different direction. I think it would have been funnier. Because I think the funniest parts of this movie are when they act like cartoon strips. It's short and to the point, funny. And I like the little nod wink funny that's kind of satire. And I think that ultimately, I think they live up to the movie lives up to the point of the cartoon strip, which was that we're all part of a kind of a weird, eccentric family. There's things that I would have done different, but that is what it is. We can always agree to disagree on certain things. But for me, this movie it's enjoyable. It's not one that I'm going to pull out a lot. And like Ken said, I think at the end of last episode, I'm not a big fan of comedy in my horror. And I don't consider this a horror movie. I consider it a comedy movie. So it doesn't really fit in my Halloween type of thing. No, this movie's a good 3.5 stars for me. Are good hooks, 3.5 hooks for me. It's enjoyable for what it is. I think it's kind of boring at times, though, and I think that's kind of unfortunate.
For me, it's got some funny scenes in it. It's okay. It's marginal at best, to be honest with you. I love Raul Julia. I love the cast in this movie, but I think they could have done a lot more. I'm glad we watched it. It's probably not one I'm going to watch again. It's average. It's 2.5 hooks for me. I guess you got to like the themes to really, really enjoy it, but 2.5 for me. All right, Ken, what are we doing next?
I think one thing all three of us can agree on is the disgusting, horrific, horrible remake of the Addams Family theme song. Whoever greenlit that,
yeah, that was pretty bad.
That, they should have been tortured on the rack in the Addams Family house.
The original is classic. Everybody loves the original. Why not just keep it?
You don't screw with something that's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, we can agree on that. What's our next one, Ken?
We're going to be doing the 30th anniversary of the movie The Crow, which is listener suggested. So we'll talk about that on our next episode.
All right. We'll look forward to that one. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And as always, gentlemen, you can't fight here. This is the War Room.
Dun-dun-dun-dun. See you at the movies.
Drive fast. Take chances. See you next time on Hooked on Movies.